Alright everyone, welcome back. So our season reviews are up to the halfway mark here with the non-playoff teams, and we have the St. Louis Blues. So we're actually 10 days away from the draft. I'm going to try my best to get all the videos out before the draft, but we'll see how far I can get. I will make a video on the Florida Panthers winning the Cup, obviously, if that happens tonight or tomorrow or whenever you're seeing this video. But I'm going to try and get all these out. But St. Louis is the final non-playoff team in these 2024 reviews. So let's get into it here. The Blues, standings-wise, were the best team to not make the Stanley Cup playoffs this past year. They went 43, 33, and 6 for 92 points. They were 16th in the NHL. They're a little bit similar to the Minnesota Wild in some ways. Now, I know St. Louis fans don't want to be compared to the Wild, and I apologize for that, but hear me out here. The Wild and the Blues both had a very bad start to the season, and obviously, you know, that kind of sets you back a little bit when you're trying to make it to the playoffs. So usually when teams have, really bad starts to the season, they don't tend to make the playoffs after that. Some of them do if they have a big enough push and they're not that far enough behind, like the Oilers. But like the Blues, they struggled until about when they fired Craig Berube. Then they brought in Drew Bannister as the interim, and then things got better under him. But it still wasn't enough to make the playoffs this past year. They had a .561 points percentage. They had scored 239 goals, let in 250 for a -11 difference. So, again, I did think the goaltending was better than it's been in previous years, but still, not a good negative goal differential there. You don't see them make the playoffs too often. Just to ignore Washington this past year. They were 25, 14, and 2 at home, and they were 18, 19, and 4 on the road. So, overall, home and road records were pretty solid. The home record was very good. The road record was where they struggled. This team really couldn't win on the road whatsoever. It showed it was basically a 500 record there. Had they won a couple of those games on the road, they probably would have been in the playoffs over the Vegas Golden Knights, which they weren't too. I think they were 5 points back of the Golden Knights when the things were finalized, 3 or 5 points back. Again, had they gotten the extra point in some of those overtime games, or had they won the odd road game in there, or even if they beat San Jose one of the 4 times they played them this year, they probably would have been closer, if not made the playoffs this past year. So it's unfortunate, but I think St. Louis can definitely make it with the right tweaks in the offseason. They had a 2.85 goals for per game, which was 24th, and a 3.02 goals against per game, which was 14th. So they struggled to score at points this season. The goal scoring definitely was a problem. You only had, I think, one player on this team score above a 30-goal pace, and that was Jordan Kyrou. Obviously, you need more than that to get into the playoffs, but I do think that the goals against got better in that remark. The power play was horrible at the start of the season, got better as it went on. They had an 18% on the power play this year, which is 24th, and they had a 79.1 penalty kill percentage, which was 18th. So overall, average special teams there, but I think if you have a solid power play the whole way through the season, maybe they do get over that hump. But honestly, it's really just a guessing game at that point. We'll see. We would have seen if that had happened, but obviously it did not. So the team overall, when it came to scoring, again, as I said, they struggled to score a little bit. They did have some guys that played well this year, like Robert Thomas. Thomas had a good season. He played 82 games, had 26 goals, 60 assists for 86 points. Thomas had a very good season, above a point per game pace. I think he's the first player in a few of these that was above a point per game pace. I think Crosby was another one that was. But Thomas above that point per game pace there for a non-playoff team. I'd say that's pretty decent. Jordan Kyrou, 82 games played, 31 goals, 36 assists, 67 points. Kyrou dealt with a lot this year with Craig Berube. The Blues fans turned on him. Then they turned back to him. So it was a really weird thing when that was going on during the season when Berube was fired. But regardless, I've always been a fan of Kyrou. I love to get a jersey of Kyrou. This is actually Tarasenko on the back of this. Weird thing is, if you guys have been following me for a while, I have 2 Tarasenko jerseys. Just, weird. But yeah, Kyrou had a good season this year, and I think that there's room for improvement there for sure. Pavel Buchnevich, who it's possible he gets moved in the offseason. But I wouldn't bet on it. If come next year, the trade deadline, they want to move him then I think that would make more sense. He has one more year left on his contract. And it's not really that expensive either. But Buchnevich, 80 games played, 27 goals, 36 assists, 63 points. I'd say that's a good season. For what Buchnevich provides, I'd say that, basically a 30-goal season and a good 60-point year isn't too bad. It wouldn't surprise me if the Blues start off bad again next year and they want to move in a different direction. Wouldn't surprise me, and I wouldn't be too mad at that either. I think that'd honestly be the right thing to do, but we'll see what they want to do with Buchnevich. Brayden Schenn, sorry. Brayden Schenn, not Luke, Brayden, the other brother, and the captain of the Blues. Schenn had 82 games played, 20 goals, 26 assists, 46 points. I thought I'd see a little bit more out of Schenn. I didn't see as much as I wanted to this year. I think he's a good captain. I by any means. Again, being a captain does not mean you need to score an exorbitant amount of points. Doesn't mean that whatsoever, and it means that you just need to be a leader. So it doesn't mean that Schenn's going to score like an 80-point season like Thomas. But I think he had a solid year considering the fact it was his first year as captain. And I think the team got pretty close, which shows that Schenn persevered them through the bad start and got them close to the playoffs. Brandon Saad, 5th in scoring, 82 games played, 26 goals, 16 assists for 42 points this past year. I think Saad, it wouldn't surprise me if he finds his way out of St. Louis here. But I think you keep him around till the end of that contract, then he probably does retire. But Saad, I think he had a good year overall. Torrey Krug, 6th in scoring, and this is another one of those big what-ifs. Krug almost got traded to the Flyers during last offseason. I think maybe they go back and explore that, but I don't know if Krug necessarily wants to go anywhere besides maybe Boston. I don't know. But Krug, 77 games played, 4 goals, 35 assists for 39 points. I'd say that I think his numbers got a little bit better this year, but overall not great defensively at this point in his career, so it's no surprise there. Jake Neighbors had a pretty good year. Neighbors is one of the guys that I look at as a major positive for this team. Neighbors, he is pretty good. 77 games played, 27 goals, 11 assists, 38 points. 27 goals, though. In that amount of time, I think he was 4th in scoring, like when you look at goals. He was 4th in that category, and he's literally 7th in scoring. So, Neighbors really found the net a lot this year. I think that there's a good chance that next year we see a breakout season from Neighbors. And I'm all here for it. I really enjoyed him this year. I have a friend that I work with who's a Blues fan, and we would watch the games sometimes at our work. And Neighbors would always be a guy that gets contributing. That looked pretty good. So, hopefully, we'll see what Neighbors brings to the table in 24-25. Justin Falk was 8th in scoring, 60 games played, 2 goals, 28 assists, 30 points. There were rumors that Justin Falk might get traded this offseason or at the trade deadline. I think St. Louis, if the right offer comes, they'll definitely go back on that. They'll definitely go back on that for sure, but obviously we'll see what goes down there with Justin Falk. Maybe he stays, maybe he walks. Who knows? Kevin Hayes, 9th in scoring with 79 games played, 13 goals, 16 assists, 29 points. I thought I'd see a little bit more from Hayes. It looked like kind of a mess season in his first year with the Blues. He does have 3 more years left on that contract. Maybe they trade him, maybe not. We'll see. I don't really know who would want to take on that deal, though. Philly had to give up a lot just to move him anyways. Retained a lot of the salary, so we'll see. And then finally, Nick Leddy is 10th in scoring with 82 games played, 3 goals, 25 assists, 28 points. Leddy, serviceable defensive defenseman. Not expecting a lot of points out of him there. So that's your scores for St. Louis. Again, I think that in terms when I look at previous years, like last year was a really struggling year for this team. They struggled to score a lot. This year was kind of the same thing when the season started up. So I think next year, if St. Louis wants to get back in the playoffs, they need to avoid the really slow starts that they've been having recently. And I think, too, they also need to get some more depth on this team. It feels like they do have some good young top-end talent, but they need some more depth experience and some guys who can score, secondary scoring. So we'll see what they want to do in the offseason. That's where I'd imagine they go in the direction of. But, I mean, hey, whatever Armstrong wants to do, which, by the way, Alexander Steen will take over that role very soon. Jordan Binnington is your goalie, and he will be for the foreseeable future. I don't think he gets traded after this year. Binnington last year was he had a lot of outbursts in the media, was fighting goalies. He's always been that kind of guy in previous years in his career. This year was a much calmer year from Binnington. I didn't see a lot of the headlines of him trying to want to fight Fleury and doing a lot of other things. He didn't do that this year. He more or less focused on playing. And Binnington, it showed in this game. 28, 21, and 5, a 2.84 and a .913. I don't necessarily think Binnington's the issue. Binnington with a .913 for a team that did not make the playoffs. That's pretty good. The only goalie that I can think of that was kind of close to that was Joey Dackard. So I think that Binnington is in a good spot there, and I think he stays in St. Louis. I don't think you have a choice in moving him anyways. He definitely has, I think, 2 more years left on his deal. So hopefully, Binnington will pan out from there. And then Joel Hofer. Hofer was the backup, potential rookie. I saw some rumors at the beginning of the season that Hofer might take over that job. I don't know. You might have a pretty good tandem here in St. Louis with these two goalies. Hofer, 15, 12, and 1, a 2.65 and a .914. Those numbers are good for a rookie goaltender. You saw a lot of rookie goalies not play too well this year, be kind of this season. Hofer wasn't one of them. He looked pretty good in the games he played this year, and hopefully that will continue into 24-25. So that's your scoring, guys. Ins and outs, there wasn't a lot of trades this year for St. Louis. They made a couple minor moves, like they traded Malcolm Subban for a 7th. And Bortuzzo obviously came in too. So, honestly, not a whole lot of, trade market there for St. Louis. They more or less just stayed put. I think that's what Armstrong wanted to do. So I'm not really complaining there whatsoever. In terms of draft capital for this St. Louis Blues team, they do have the 16th overall pick, if I'm correct. We'll see what direction they want to move in with that pick. They have 2 seconds, 2 thirds, 1 fourth, 1 fifth, no 6th, and 2 sevenths in this year's draft. So not a lot of capital there. I don't think St. Louis is really planning on not being good this year either. I think they wanted to get back into the playoffs, but obviously they're not in that direction yet. It will be good, though, to get another solid draft pick in their hands. They did pretty well last year, getting Dvorsky, Stenberg, and I think someone else. They did a good job in last year's draft. Hopefully they can get someone that's decent in this year's draft as well. So in terms of free agency, guys who are expiring, it's not a big list for either side. UFA, Sammy Blais, Kasperi Kapanen, Marco Scandella, Josh Jacobs. I think you let Jacobs go. I think you let Scandella go. Kapanen, we'll see what happens, but I think Kapanen probably walks. And then Sammy Blais, maybe they keep him around as a good 4th-line role there. But we'll see what happens with Sammy Blais. RFAs, Nikita Alexandrov and Alexander Perunovich were 2 solid players this year. Perunovich, I know his development's been stalled a little bit, but I think he can still be solid. I think they both get probably 1 year or 2-year, 2-way contracts. Nothing huge there, maybe a 1-way, but it's low cap hit. We'll see what happens there with those guys. But yeah, that's your 2024 review for the St. Louis Blues. Again, as I said, I think they need some depth. That's really all I see this team needing. I feel like they could be back in it next year. I think if the young guys play as well as they've been, I think if Neighbors takes a step, I think if Kyrou and Thomas can keep playing well, and obviously Kyrou can take a step as well, I think this team can definitely get back into the playoffs next season, and I'm all here for it. I wouldn't be mad to see St. Louis back in it. I've always liked St. Louis. I was very happy when they won their cup, but it's been a long time since they won their last cup. I know it was 2019, but we're coming up on 5 years ago. Makes you feel old. But regardless, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe down below. I really appreciate it. Again, as I said, we are going into the playoff teams now. We got Washington tomorrow. I might start doing 2 a day, so maybe you'll see Washington and Tampa tomorrow, but obviously, we'll see. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.